I always considered myself a pretty grounded person. Sure, life had thrown me some curveballs, but nothing I couldn't handle. So you can imagine my surprise when I found myself staring at the towering gates of Greystone Mental Institution. The past few weeks had been a blur, strange dreams, occasional blackouts, and moments when my surroundings felt entirely unfamiliar. My family grew concerned, especially after that incident at the local grocery store. I couldn't remember it, but they claimed I'd started shouting at people, lost in some delusion. I was brought in for a routine evaluation. As I walked into the institution, I was met by cold, sterile walls and an eerie silence broken only by the distant echoes of patients. A nurse approached and escorted me to my quarters, room 409. That's where everything began. The room itself was simple: a cot, a sink, and a mirror with faint scratches across the glass. It felt temporary, like it had been prepared just for me. The light above the bed flickered, not randomly, but every 10 seconds exactly. I timed it. The precision was unsettling. It made me think someone was on the other side, controlling it, testing me. The first night I woke at 3:07 a.m. to whispers filtering through the vent. At first I assumed it was other patients, but the longer I listened, the less it sounded like words. It was rhythmic, like chanting. I pressed my ear against the metal until it was cold against my skin. I still couldn't understand, but my heart pounded like I wasn't meant to hear it at all. In the morning, I asked a nurse if others had complained about noises. Her smile came too quickly. Her pen scratched something in my file, though her hand trembled. She told me it was just the medication adjusting, but no one had given me any medication yet. That was the first crack. The days blurred. Time slipped through my fingers. Sometimes I blinked and hours had passed. Once I woke barefoot in the hallway, standing in front of a plain metal door with no number. The handle was dented, scratched, as if someone had clawed at it with desperation. When I asked about it, they told me there was no such door. But I knew what I'd touched. The warmth of the metal lingered on my skin. I tried to talk to other patients. An older man named Russell played chess with me in the common room. One afternoon, after a long silence, he leaned forward and whispered, 409 isn't a room. It's an observation cell. They're not treating you. They're watching you. Before I could ask what he meant, an orderly rushed over and led him away. I never saw him again. His name vanished from the roster like he'd never been there. Meals were no comfort. The meatloaf, the chicken, the soup, they all tasted the same. Metallic, faintly chemical. Whenever I looked up from my tray, I noticed a camera watching me. Not just one, dozens. Behind vents, tucked into corners, hidden in the light fixtures. Always pointed at me. The dreams came harder after that. I'd find myself strapped to a gurney, surrounded by figures in white coats. Their faces melted and shifted like wax figures exposed to heat. Their voices rose in the same rhythm I'd heard through the vents. I'd wake up choking, throat raw, wrists sore. One morning, faint bruises ringed my wrists and ankles. When I demanded to know why, a nurse said I'd been restrained for my own safety. But the bruises were too deliberate, too even. Like someone had been measuring how much pressure it took to hold me down. The unmarked door pulled me back again and again. Every blackout, every restless walk, I ended there. One night I forced myself to stay conscious. The building was silent, the air thick. I pressed my palm against the handle. It was warm. I pushed it open. Inside was me. Not a reflection. Another me, sitting hunched on a cot, rocking back and forth. When it lifted its head, its eyes were wide, glossy, almost inhuman. And then it smiled. A stretched, unnatural smile that didn't belong on my face. I slammed the door. The sound thundered down the hallway, but no one came. The corridor was empty, too empty. The next morning, staff told me I'd attacked an orderly, that I'd been found screaming and clawing at the walls. I remember none of it. All I remember is the other me, smiling. From that night on, the whispers changed. They no longer sounded like nonsense. They said my name. Dozens of voices, children, women, old men, all whispering my name in perfect unison. And it wasn't confined to the vents anymore. One afternoon, the TV in the common room cut out. The actors' voices disappeared, replaced by the same chant. The room filled with the sound of my name. And yet, none of the other patients reacted. They just stared at the screen, expressionless. I began finding notes in my handwriting, slipped beneath my pillow, folded into the soles of my shoes. They all said the same thing. He's closer. And the mirror above my sink, it cracked straight down the center without warning. I leaned in, but the reflection lagged. For a moment, it wasn't me at all. It was him, the other me, grinning. The grin widened, splitting too far, too sharp, until the glass itself seemed to stretch with it. My stomach lurched and the reflection leaned forward, pressing against the mirror as though it wanted to crawl through. The crack spread wider, and then the surface gave way. I stumbled back, but the room around me dissolved. The cot, the sink, the mirror, all gone. When I blinked, I was somewhere else. A puppet room. Strings hung from the ceiling in long rows, stretching from wall to wall, so many that I had to push them aside just to breathe. They weren't thread. They were thicker, almost like veins. Some of them pulsed faintly, as if something was alive inside them. When I stood, my foot brushed against something soft. At first I thought it was a pile of blankets, until I saw the shapes. Dozens of figures, slumped in chairs around the edges of the room. Their heads lolled forward, strings tied to their wrists and ankles, keeping them upright like marionettes waiting to be lifted. I stumbled back into the center of the room, desperate for a way out. But there wasn't a door. The walls were seamless, pressing closer, as though the whole room had been built only for this. The hum began then, low, steady, running through the strings until they all trembled together. The puppets twitched once, their wooden limbs jerking like something was testing them. I shouted for them to stop, begged them to look at me, but not one of them broke rhythm. The lights snapped out. When they returned, I wasn't in 409. I was strapped on the bed. Thick leather restraints pinned my wrists and ankles to the frame, another across my chest, another across my forehead, locking my head flat against the mattress. I couldn't lift my arms, couldn't bend my legs, couldn't even turn away from the blinding light above me. The silence was heavy, pressing, broken only by the faint groan of the straps whenever I tried to move. The restraints dug deeper into my skin, and that's when something inside me snapped. Not panic, not fear. Something worse. A crack in my thoughts. My chest felt hollow, my mind splintering, questions slamming against each other so fast they stopped being questions at all. Was my family even real? Did they put me here? Did they ever exist? I can't remember my father's face. I can't remember the sound of my mother's voice. I try, but it slips away the harder I chase it, like someone's erasing me on purpose, piece by piece. The straps creaked even though I wasn't moving. I swear they were tightening on their own, pulling me deeper into the bed, holding me still so the room could watch me come apart. And I laughed. I actually laughed because maybe this is what I've always been. A mistake. A file shoved in the wrong cabinet. A patient number with no family attached, no life outside, nothing but a bed and a light and a door that never opens. And the worst part is, I don't know if I'm dreaming or if I'm awake. When I woke again, I was back in 409. The cot, the sink, the scratched mirror. But nothing feels certain anymore. I don't know if Greystone is a hospital or something far worse. I don't know if I'm the patient or the experiment. But I do know this. Every night the whispers grow louder. The light above my bed flickers faster. And the other me. Every time I close my eyes, I feel him leaning closer. Slowly. Waiting.